Hey everyone, this is Sasha bringing you a video tutorial today from BP4U. And today we're going to be talking about exporting your photographs. So now we have imported some photos and we have edited some photos and it's time to export them. And so if you notice when you come up here, there is no file save or no file save as option. The first time that I noticed this, I was so confused, because I couldn't figure out what to do with my photos after I edited them. So in Lightroom, it's called exporting. And so we can go up here to export, export with previous, export with preset, which we're going to kind of keep in mind for now, but let's put that in the back of our mind, and export as catalog. So let's go up here to export. So here we have some options, quite a few actually. So here we have our export location. You can choose where you want to export your pictures to. I usually have mine in my pictures folder, but you can navigate this to where you want it to be, a specific folder where you can go in and you can choose this folder. You can choose folder later, which is useful for making presets, which we are going to talk about, and this is the option that I'm going to use. You can also go to your user folder, your documents, your pictures, your desktop, or the same folder as the original photo. I'm going to choose this option because we are going to be talking about presets, so we're just going to kind of put that at the back of our mind right now, and we're going to kind of move on. Another thing that we have up here is this export to. You can export to generally your hard drive. I also have this portraiture installed. Your options might look different. Here we can add this to our catalog. We can add it to a subfolder or a stack. And with existing files, we can ask it what to do, overwrite without warning, skip, or choose a new name for exported files. What this means is if you have two files with the exact same name, for example, photo1.jpg. If you had two files named photo1.jpg, then you want to have Lightroom either ask you what to do. You can have Lightroom choose a new name for the new exported file, or you can have it overwrite the existing file. So now you're only going to have one photo1.jpg, and it's going to be the new one, and it's going to erase the old one. Or you can have it skip it. I'm going to again choose this Ask What to Do option because of my preset, which I will explain more after we get through this part of the video. Here we can choose to rename our file. We can do some custom settings, or we have these preset settings here. We can do this custom name, for example, photo1.jpg. And here we have this lowercase or uppercase extension. You can see the uppercase extension just makes the JPG capitalized, and lowercase keeps it lowercase. And so that is an option as well. You can also do a custom name with a sequence. And so we could just make this photos, and then we could start at 1, and it would be photos-1.jpg. And if we were uploading multiple photos, this is probably how we would want that to look. Here we have these file settings. I'm definitely going to keep my format in JPEG option. The reason for that is I want to be able to, when I'm finished with my editing, share my photos on my favorite social media sites, share them via email to friends and family, and maybe I would like to blog those or have them printed, whatever. That is the extension that I'm going to use for most of those, just for a normal photo. If I wanted to, I could save it as a PSD file. If I wanted to save it as a PSD file, that would be a Photoshop document. I would probably want to save that as a Photoshop document if I planned on further editing my photo in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. TIFF is another option. It's a really large file. It's one of the largest files. If you have a reason to use that as a TIFF, then you could go ahead and save it as a TIFF as well, or a digital negative, a DNG down here. If you planned on further editing your photo in a secondary program that was not affiliated with Adobe, that only used DNG files, or you could choose to keep it as the original file. I'm going to leave mine on JPEG. I usually prefer my quality to be high at 100. Here you can choose your color space. I have mine in sRGB because this is the color space that most places typically use, from your printer to your favorite social media site. You also have Adobe RGB, which you could use if you, again, planned on further editing your photo in an Adobe program, or you could use ProPhoto RGB. Some printers use ProPhoto RGB. This is something that you will have to discuss with the printer of your choice when setting up an account with them. And then, of course, there is the other option. Here you can choose to limit your file size, or include video files, which I don't have any video files here. Here you can resize your image, and you can choose how you want to resize that with your megapixels, or your width and your height, your dimensions, and so on. Here you can also choose your resolution. Even if you choose not to resize your photo, you can always change your resolution. Again, you want to check with your printer, because some printers require you to have a resolution of 300 ppi, or pixels per inch. Some of them call it DPI, dots per inch, but it's the same thing. You can see this photo is at a resolution of 240, but if my printer required me to have that at 300, then I would want to go ahead and I would want to change that now. Here we have output sharpening, and we can choose whether or not we want to add some sharpening or not, and we can choose how we want that sharpening to look. For example, right now we're sharpening a standard amount for our screen. I can also choose matte paper or glossy paper if I was sending that off to the printer, and I can choose whether I want that to be a low amount of sharpening, a standard amount of sharpening, or a high amount of sharpening. Here we can choose whether or not we want to embed our metadata. That is completely up to you. You can add your keywords, or you can minimize your embedded metadata. And that is two options that you have to decide whether or not you want to do for yourself. Down here we have our watermark, and you can see that we have our watermark saved templates, and you can choose whether you want that watermark to be on your photograph or nothing. Here we can choose what we want to do after post-processing. We can do nothing, show and explore, open in Adobe Photoshop CS5, which is for me because I have that program. If you have a different editing program, that option may be in there. If you don't have any other editing programs, you may not see any of those options available to you. And if you have a secondary application, you could choose that here as well. I don't, so I'm just going to leave it at do nothing. So when I'm really happy with all of this, all of these settings that I have here, I obviously don't want to have to take the time to do this every single time I want to export photos, because if you do a lot of sessions or if you take a lot of pictures, you may not want to have to constantly be in here adding and changing things around. So we can add a preset. So I can come over here and I can title my preset what I want it to, and then I can go ahead and I can click create. So another thing that we can do is we can go back then and we can set up a second preset, and maybe this one is for sharing on the web. For example, if I had a social media fan page for my business, I may want to go ahead and add my watermark, and I may want to resize my file smaller so that I can have that shareable and more manageable for uploading online. And so then you could set up again a second preset, and you could add that in there as well. And so then you could go ahead and you could click on export, or you could cancel that. As of right now, I am only exporting one photograph, and it's this photo right here that I have in my window. I could upload multiple photographs, I could export multiple photographs at once as well by control clicking on all of the photos that I want to include in my export. I can include all of these down here, or I could exclude all of those down here. And if I wanted to, I could come up here and I could select all of these photos. And I know that there is a setting for it here somewhere. Right here, select all. We could select all of these to include in our preset, or we could select none and just include just a few photos in our preset, in our export, or we could select a couple and invert our selection. For example, if I wanted to include all of my photos except for these 3, then I could click on those 3 and I could click invert my selection to do my export. Another way to export photos is to just right click, come up here to where it says export, and I can click right on one of my presets. And so that is extremely beneficial to understand and to know, so that you can do that in a very quick and fast, timely manner to get that done. Again, you could also come up here to File, Export with Preset, and you could again pick one of those presets as well. And so once you have all of your photos exported, they will show up in your folder that you had sent them to, and they will be all ready for you to use in your file format that you have chosen. So thank you for watching this video tutorial. Happy exporting!